Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city and Also Asked is the only tool to access live People Also Ask data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com.
Tired of SEO guesswork? Quadra's AI agent goes deeper to uncover high-impact optimizations and completes hours of SEO in minutes. Get started now.
I was going to say that SEO with Fat Joe is as peaceful as this, but then the birds are all having fights.
Thanks very much. So, my talk is on the topic Snake Meet Tail, Understanding Consumer Concerns about AI. Now, I'm sure everybody is very familiar with the breathlessly enthusiastic headlines we've seen about AI over the last few years. AI is going to save us time, save us money, save lives, change the world. Then on the flip side, of course, there are the equally passionate negative headlines. Actually, AI is an ethical and environmental disaster. It's drowning the internet in AI slop and it's ruining everything. Then you've got the research, and one piece of research that really caught my attention last year was into the impact when AI models start training on AI-generated data and the alarmingly rapid descent into madness that follows. So, in between all this, in between the evangelists and the doomsdayers and the research, I started wondering, what do regular people actually think about AI? And one interesting stat that I found quite quickly was in terms of the split of positive perception. Advertisers and marketers, 77% of us have a positive perception of AI, but only 38% of consumers have a positive perception of AI. So I wanted to delve into that a little bit more, understand a bit more what's behind that, and what we want to do about it. So today I'm going to take us through, what do people think they think if you just stop them in the street and ask them? What do people actually think when they encounter AI in the wild? And then as marketers, what should you guys and us be doing about it? So first off, our reported consumer perceptions. I'm going to take you on a bit of a whistle-stop tour of some different regions and demographics and what they think about AI. Beginning here in the UK, where consumers are cautiously optimistic. 56% of UK consumers are optimistic about the positive impact of AI technology on the economy and society, but only 35% trust AI-using companies with their data. And this is a bit of a recurring theme in the research, okay? There is positive enthusiasm and optimism for the potential impacts of AI, tempered with distrust for either the algorithms themselves or the people who are applying those algorithms. In the US, consumers have similarly mixed feelings. About half are either excited or very excited about generative AI, but 62% don't trust AI to make ethical decisions. Now, the trust in AI does vary according to application, and here are the 4 most trusted applications according to US consumers. They're relatively comfortable seeing AI as an educational resource, seeing it used in personalized recommendations, in customer service applications, and the rather nebulously titled business use category. So these are places where consumers are perhaps a little bit more comfortable coming across AI. In the EU, we see a little bit more skepticism, although 62% do think that digital technologies like AI have a positive impact on the economy, and 56% feel they have a positive impact on society. 84% feel that AI requires careful management. There's also in the EU greater concern about the impact of AI on the job market and people's job security, and not surprisingly, people generally express more concern around privacy and data security. We're painting in very broad brushstrokes here, but one thing that research has noted is that there's generally more enthusiasm for AI in developing markets. More than 80% of consumers in China and Saudi Arabia say that AI makes their lives easier. And when I spoke to our local in-market expert, or as we call them, LIMEs, in Saudi Arabia, he told me that people are usually optimistic about the new developments brought about by AI, whether that's in, again, marketing or in products and services. But again, when you take that global view, 41% of consumers feel that their data is not safe with companies using AI. So that is pretty significant. And I would say that if you're excited about applying AI to your products and services, maybe consider how you can reassure consumers that their data is still safe, given those developments. Interestingly, the split age-wise in terms of demographics is not perhaps as stark as you might think. It is the case that older generations tend to be slightly less trusting of AI using companies and younger generations slightly more so. But that is not as wide a gulf as maybe I would have predicted. I don't know about you guys. That being said, the gap is also narrowing slightly because Gen Z and millennials have got less trusting in the year since they were first asked that question. So potentially that gap may continue to narrow depending on how developments continue to move. Of course, governmental position can also influence consumer perceptions. China and the UAE are obviously very actively promoting AI, and our Chinese Live said there's a lot of national pride in the developments in China around AI. US and UK governments have taken a slightly more balanced approach, as has the EU, although they've recently launched a €200 billion investment in AI developments. It'll be interesting to see how that shapes perceptions over the next few years. Again, very, very broad brushstrokes, but Asia, the Middle East and Latin America tend to be more optimistic about AI, whereas Western Europe and North America perhaps slightly more skeptical. So that's the theory, when you just stop people and ask them. But what about when people actually come across AI? How do they respond? Now, we know that images generated by AI are getting harder to spot over time. We've all seen that. Images are getting higher quality, and in one study, the ability of participants to identify AI-generated images declined from 56% in June 2023 to basically no better than chance in October of 2024. Along with this increase in quality, you do see more mistrust and people getting a bit warier around the possibility of AI images, so that is at play here as well. Now, the age split in terms of ability to differentiate images is perhaps slightly more in line with what we would expect. Younger participants tend to have a much easier time identifying these AI-generated images than older participants. Again, in China, where there's a positive perception of AI, quality is still really important. So regardless of how people feel about it in principle, high-quality images absolutely matter. Our Chinese Live said that if the quality of an AI-generated image or video is low, it's likely to hurt brand image and have connotations of being lazy, cheap, and untrustworthy. And a Chinese brand actually ran afoul of this. Luckin Coffee, which is one of the biggest brands, biggest coffee franchises in China, developed a new product and used AI in their product image. Consumers spotted it. That's what those red highlights are. And they found it to be shoddy and disrespectful to consumers. The Queensland Symphony Orchestra ran afoul of a similar problem in developing some AI-generated imagery for paid media campaigns. And instead of having the kind of luxury connotation that maybe they were going for, people got a bit distracted trying to work out whose fingers were whose. And also, why the audience at the symphony is full of violinists. Honestly, the more you look at that picture, the weirder it gets. So what about text? Now, as a general rule, people do tend to be a little bit better at identifying AI-generated text than images. There's still not a huge amount in it, but it goes from slightly better than chance to a little bit better than chance. But in terms of where you might want to apply AI-generated text, you've got obviously a few options, one of which is email marketing. But I think we want to be a bit careful with AI-generated communications because the general perception is still, broadly speaking, quite negative. People feel that it does come across as obvious, the use of AI, and that it comes across negatively. And over half of people asked said that they would lose trust in a brand that used AI in their email communication. But this isn't one size fits all. These perceptions do vary across different age groups. Gen Z is particularly critical of the use of AI in emails, with about a quarter saying they feel that its usage is moderately obvious in a negative way. Baby boomers are less likely to identify AI in emails, and they say as much, but they do share similar concerns about the kind of overall quality of AI-generated email communication. Interestingly, though, millennials are slightly more open to their technology. While about a fifth, again, feel that its usage is moderately obvious in a negative way, about half believe that AI-generated brand communications can actually be positive. So this is one situation where maybe you want to really delve into the specific opinions and preferences of your market before you rule it either in or out. Generally speaking, the longer a piece of text is, the greater the challenge is going to be for generative AI. The models are getting more sophisticated all the time. We're aware of that. And again, our Chinese Lime told me that she's heard instances of people being moved to the point of tears by AI-generated essays. So, they are getting more sophisticated. They are getting more effective. It's also important to note that the kind of telltale signs of AI can vary from market to market, from language to language. Our Mexican Lime, Sophia, said that for Latin American audiences, one giveaway is that AI has a tendency to overuse formal structures, neutral phrasing, and a lack of regionalisms or slang. So that's potentially an issue that isn't one that comes up in the UK so much. Dutch Lime, Lecco, said that long-form AI content would probably be spotted in the Netherlands. He says they find that AI tends to fill paragraphs with duplicate content and repeated sentence formatting. Although he said that shorter applications of AI, such as in product descriptions, might not be such a big deal, might not be so noticeable. He did also tell us that the Dutch are very straightforward and will definitely highlight if they feel that something is AI generated. Apparently this comes up in LinkedIn and in Instagram captions and the like. So, we've talked about text, we've talked about images. I think video is an interesting one because we know that video is increasingly important as a format, but it can be quite expensive and time-consuming to produce. So is AI a viable shortcut to this? At the moment, potentially not yet. Some research by Nielsen presented participants with AI-generated video adverts, and spontaneously and unprompted, participants identified most of them as being AI generated, which is not necessarily a deal breaker in and of itself, except they also identified the adverts as being more annoying and boring and confusing than traditionally created adverts. And then to really put the icing on the cake, they were also less effective. So it's a bit of a bad news, good news, bad news situation in terms of the findings from this research. So the big downside was the negative brand halo from those poor perceptions that people had when they saw the videos. The relatively low quality visuals were frustrating for participants. However, something that AI is quite good at when generating video is brand reinforcement, sort of picking up on the core elements of a brand and really bringing them to life in video. Now, whether that remains a positive combined with the negative brand halo, I guess, is potentially a subject for discussion. But then back to the bad news, unfortunately, because of those lower quality visuals being more cognitively taxing, being harder work for participants to actually work through and interpret, the adverts had weaker memory activation effects. So yes, it might be quicker and cheaper and easier to generate video via AI, but it's not necessarily going to have the effect that you want it to have. So maybe something to hold off on until the models are a bit more developed. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of perceptions in theory and in practice, but what are we going to do about it? How can we use AI effectively, knowing what we know? As far as I see it, you kind of have three options. You can use AI completely behind the scenes in ways that nobody's going to know. You can use it in ways that enhance the customer experience, so they can see what you're doing, but they can see that it's giving them, a better experience, so they're happy about it. And if you are going to use AI for creatives, obviously, you have to make sure it's really high quality and maybe consider transparency. There are bound to be dozens of fantastic talks talking about really specific ways to use AI to improve your workflow, so I'm not going to go into masses of detail here. But some options for ways of using AI behind the scenes include for data analysis and market research, to make aspects of keyword research and keyword mapping more efficient, for content planning, for briefs, for outlines, all that sort of thing. You can sort of use it as a force multiplier to make your work more efficient and effective. I would say, if you are going to use AI for research, be prepared to verify any output quite carefully. In one study, over 60% of queries to generative search tools were answered incorrectly. And not just incorrectly with extreme confidence. AI will not tell you when it's not sure about something. It's probably not even sure when it's not sure about something. So do be prepared to carefully fact check any AI output if you're going to be relying on it for an important source. So next option, using it to improve the customer experience. So some options around this include improving navigation for product recommendation purposes, for personalized offers, AI-powered chatbots so that people have access to some form of customer support, even outside of core hours. You'll notice that some of these are the sort of ways that our US consumers said were some of the more trusted applications. So we already know that these are areas where people are a little bit more comfortable with the idea of seeing AI in practice. We found one really good example supplied by our Indian line, Ritu, who said that brands in India are making really smart use of AI. A lot of small businesses are using it to improve customer experiences and for the purposes of convenience. And this is one example by Make My Trip, which is an Indian travel portal. So you can, if you're looking at hotels on their site, you can select what kind of traveler you are, whether you're traveling for business or solo or with family, and AI will pull the kind of top insights and pros and cons from reviews of other consumers traveling for the same reason as you. So that's a really helpful way of summarizing existing user-generated content using AI to create a better customer experience. And I know that Amazon is doing something similar with review aggregation as well. And then transparency. So if you are going to use AI to generate text or images or videos, consider just telling people what you've done. In one study, AI-generated ads with notice disclosures significantly boosted the appeal of the ad and also had a 96% lift in company trust, which is pretty massive when you think about the fact that a lot of people's concerns about AI come down to trust and not trusting brands that are using AI. But if you just are upfront about what you're doing, you can potentially really flip that around. Really nice example and a nice counterpoint to the Luckin coffee situation that our Chinese line shared. So another Chinese company, this one Chase Cream, was very honest about the fact that they'd used AI in the development of their new product. They used it to name the new product, and they used it to generate all of the marketing materials. And unlike in Luckin Coffee, where people thought they'd caught out the brand using AI behind the scenes, because they were so upfront about it, people thought that was a really exciting, innovative use of AI, and this was much, much better received. On the email front, unsurprisingly, a majority of consumers say they demand transparency on whether communications have been AI generated. So absolutely, this is something that you want to think about. Of course, bear in mind that not all circumstances may be appropriate for AI-generated communications. In one circumstance, following a university shooting in a nearby state, a member of Vanderbilt University sent out a supportive email to the email list. The contents of the email were fine. Nobody had any problems with it, but it came with an OpenAI disclaimer. And naturally, this provoked a lot of backlash, people feeling that a topic like this called for a human response. So again, you probably don't want a blanket policy on AI-generated comms. I think Lecco put it really nicely. Transparency is a net positive. People are pleased to know whether something's written by a human or written by AI. But you just need to consider whether you're creating this suggestion that your company would rather let a computer do the work than put in the effort themselves. In an environment where the human touch is at such a premium and people are really looking for human connection, you might want to consider whether you want to be outsourcing communication to a machine. So, in terms of key takeaways, obviously, views on the use of AI in marketing vary enormously across markets and demographics. I've only just scraped the surface of the research that's out there. And really, you need to be able to talk to people in your target market and understand their specific priorities and concerns before you make any absolute decisions about how you want to apply AI in your marketing. AI-generated content is getting harder to identify for many consumers. But when people do identify it, it can come with negative impact on trust and brand perception. AI can be highly effective in behind-the-scenes applications and as a creator of efficiency. And when you're using AI in customer-facing ways, consider the benefits of transparency. And if you are interested in learning more about the intersection of AI and marketing in the global digital landscape, Oban actually has a new book out, Beyond Borders, which is available now, and you can get a free copy there. Thank you so much for your time.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.